Hi, today we are reading Wren, and we are on chapter 10 called A Serious Accident. That sounds scary. Marie enjoyed this summer very much because Wren could do so many more things. But as she watched her sister, she often had a little catch in her heart, wondering, will she ever be able to walk? Karen was as busy as could be. Besides all the exciting parts of the game, she had 12 bunnies to care for. Shanty cared for them too. Apparently, he didn't think Babbitt got them clean enough because he washed them and washed them. They were tiny and his tongue was big and long, and often when he was licking them, he'd push them several inches along the floor. Once, when one was lying on a chair, he licked her right through the spokes and she bounced on the floor. But the bunnies didn't seem to mind and would chase Shanty around the house and tease him dreadfully by nibbling on his feathers or ears when he was trying to sleep. They were not the least bit afraid of him. The two things that Wren and her friends enjoyed most were playing the game with their dolls. They called this therapy. They would put their dolls on the bench in the yard and move their legs and arms and backs just as Marie did to Wren. The second favorite game was playing house with the bunnies. Deciding on names for the 12 bunnies had not been easy, but finally it was done. They were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail Peter, Black Mumbo, Black Jumbo, Little Black Sambo, Prancer, Dancer, Dasher, Comet, and Blitzen. The youngsters would dress the bunnies in doll clothes, including little bonnets, and put 8 or 10 of them in the doll carriage. Marie would push Wren's wheelchair, which Daddy had bought so she could go everywhere, and Karen would lean forward and push the carriage. The children would fix meals for the bunnies, too: carrot tops, celery, radishes, and of course bits of cucumber. They'd put these on a little low table, and the bunnies would sit up on their hind legs and eat almost like a person. All the while they ate, their whiskers would twitch. When they'd had enough, they'd jump down and dash away, then in a circle kick up their hind legs and dash back again. Here's a picture of the bunnies teasing the dog. One night at dinner, Mommy said to Daddy in a worried voice, "Daddy, I think you better call the exterminator." "Why?" asked Daddy as he cut Wren's meat. She couldn't do this alone yet. "Well," said Mommy, and she asked embarrassed, "I think I'm a good housekeeper and keep the rugs clean, but we must have moths." "I haven't seen any," said Daddy. "I haven't either," Mom Pom told him, "but look at the bare spots in the rugs." Marie and Wren looked at each other and burst out laughing. "I don't see anything funny about it," Mommy said crossly. They laughed harder. "Children!" Their father's voice was sharp with displeasure. "But, Daddy," Wren gasped, tears running down her cheeks from the laughter. Daddy stood up. He was very angry. Marie and Wren didn't often see their father angry, so they stopped laughing. Marie said, "We must have moths in the piano legs, too," and the girls started laughing over and over again. Daddy was very red in the face. He looked at Mommy and then suddenly sat down and began to laugh, too. Now it was Mommy's turn to look angry. "Mom Pum," Daddy's eyes began to water as he roared in mirth, "don't you see?" "I don't see anything," said Mommy in a hurt voice. Daddy tried to stop laughing and start talking. "You don't have moths," he choked over the words. "You have bunnies that eat rugs and piano legs." Mom Pum looked startled for a moment, then laughed as boisterously as they did. "This must stop," she said finally, wiping her eyes. "Oh my, what next?" "A snake," suggested Wren. "No," said Mommy and Daddy together. The bushes and trees were wearing their bright fall outfits of orange, brown, and crimson. Daddy said, "Let's visit the Healy's this afternoon and go for a ride on their lake." Ethel Healy and Mummy were the same age, and so were Sherman Healy and Daddy. Their brother Jay was a little older. They lived with their mother, a darling mite of an Irish lady. The Healys were old friends and loved all the Killillys, including Shanty. It was a perfect day for boating. The Healy's cousin Bill was visiting, and as there were too many for one boat, Bill took Karen and Marie in the rowboat, and Jay and Ethel and Mummy and Daddy went in the canoe. Sherman stayed home to finish a picture he was painting. Mrs. Healy said she would fix tea while they were gone. The canoe followed about 50 feet behind the rowboat. Marie was sitting on the seat beside Wren, with her arm around her. Wren was dragging a stick in the water. Marie called to Mommy, "Let's go in near the island. Wren and I want to watch the fish under the water and play hide and go seek under the weeping willow trees." "All right," Mom Pom answered, and turned to look at the island. A moment later, Daddy dove over the side of the canoe into the water. The rowboat was behind a willow, and Mummy couldn't see the children, but she knew something must have happened. She stood up and dove in too, upsetting the canoe as she did so and dumping Jay and Ethel into the lake. When she came to the surface, she saw Bill with his arm around Marie, but Wren was not in the boat. Mummy knew then that Daddy had seen Karen fall overboard. She swam after him to the rowboat and saw him dive down. She dove down too, looking for Wren, who couldn't swim. Mummy dove 3 times without finding her, praying over and over again, "Please, God, help us find her." Daddy stayed under the water until he thought his lungs would burst for want of air, and then he saw his Wren. He grabbed her and swam back up to the surface. Mummy saw them and swam over to them, murmuring, "Thank you, God, thank you so much." Together, Mummy and Daddy got Wren over the side and into the rowboat and climbed in after her. Marie and Bill were holding her. She was pale, but she didn't even cough. Marie was very pale, too. She clung to Karen tightly, terribly frightened still. Her face looked frozen. "I couldn't help it, Mom Pom. Honestly, I couldn't," she cried, with big, deep sobs. "I'm sure you couldn't, sweetheart," Mom Pom said. Marie's words tumbled out between sobs. "She was dragging that stick and dropped it in the water. She lunged over the side after it. I couldn't hold her. I couldn't. And she went over." She sobbed and sobbed. "Your thinking was quick and good, Princess," Daddy told her. "It was an accident. You weren't careless. It was an accident that nobody could stop." "Wren's all right, aren't you, Wren?" Mom Pom looked lovingly at the precious little girl. "I'm perfectly all right, honey." Wren smiled at Marie. "Please don't cry anymore. I'll tell you something. You know, it was pretty down there. While I was waiting for Daddy, I held my breath and looked around. I'll tell you all about it if you stop crying." I'll try," Marie choked back a sob and sniffled. "But you do know I couldn't help you, don't you, Wren?" "I know, sweetheart, I know," said her sister and patted her on the cheek. On the way home, Daddy stopped the car at church, and they all went in and said thank you. They looked very funny, dressed in Jay and Sherman and Ethel's clothes, just like Halloween, but they knew God would understand and would be happy to see them.